Hello everyone, welcome to Dr. Defective's Mad Scientist Laboratory. I'm Dr. Defective, and this video we're going to show you the newest and latest piece of equipment we put together here. Just finished it up the other day, got it put into place, so really happy with this thing. Got the idea, was working on different ideas about 6 months ago, trying to come up with something. Had this basic idea at first. It was pretty much just this much I had drawn out. I had this hand in here. That's an awesome hand. I've had that for years and years. I picked it up at a horror convention years ago, and I carried it around with me to other conventions and stuff, just sort of as a prop, but I always wanted to do a little bit more with it. So came up with this basic idea with the pieces on the side here, and drew it out, started gathering things up. Was pretty happy with what was going on. And this radio has been sitting in this spot again years, 8-10 years. I picked it up, set it here, and knew I'd want to do something with it someday. And I put a couple little trinkets and whatnots on the top, kind of make it look cool, but never did anything with the insides of it. And it kind of became a catch-all. Be throwing stuff on top of it, hold this while I go do something else. And I don't know, can't tell you when the inspiration hit finally. One day you walk by it and you're looking at it and you go, wait a tick, that's going to work perfectly with this idea. So tore apart, got everything, all the pieces we needed, had to order stuff, buy stuff, find stuff, dig through piles of your own stuff. I know I got something here somewhere, dang it, and digging and rooting until you finally find it. So we got it together. Just real happy with the way it turned out. You don't have any real instruction guide when it comes to these. So you get an idea in your head, you kind of know what you're looking to accomplish, kind of know how you're going to make it work, and then you get to certain points, and then sometimes it's trial and error. Build it, tear it apart, build it, doesn't work, build it, burns up, blows up, hurts yourself, hurts somebody else. It happens. So anyway, we got it up together and good to go, I believe, here. So the rest of the video is going to be the build. You're going to see some of the things I did to make this happen. I didn't record any video. I did it all with pictures, so hope you don't mind that. Took pictures as many as I could, and there'll be text in there explaining along the way. And when that's done, come back, we'll fire it up. You'll get to see all the stuff she does. Again, I'm really happy with it, and hope you enjoy it too. So watch the pictures, and we'll see you here shortly.
Alright, so with a 2.5 gallon plastic tank, because I know I'm going to be painting on it, and so sanding it up will make the paint stick a little bit better, and I knew I'm going to be drilling a lot of holes into it, and it's a heck of a lot easier to drill into the plastic than it is into the glass. So we'll get her tore apart, and we'll get working on her. And here's the radio I had spoken about earlier. Been sitting in that spot for many years. Oh man, picked it up, and it's one of those things, you come up with ideas, or you're out running around and you see something and you go, that's going to be a part of the lab someday. Maybe not right this minute because you don't have any ideas or can't really picture where it's going to go, but you hold on to it and you keep it there, and it helps to inspire the next project you're going to build, which it did for this one. So glad I had it. Let's break into it, tear it down, and see what we can do. So the first thing to do is tear the aquarium down. Easy enough, just a couple pieces off of there. Then get my Dremel tool and the sanding disc and rough these edges up a bit. Put some nicks and scratches and whatnots in them, and get them ready for paint. One thing I thought was cool about this radio is the top and the back piece all come off as one, so I can get inside and work on it freely with a lot of room. I have to cut the top and the back apart because there will come a time I'll have to get that top mounted and still be able to gain access from the back of the radio. But for now, that's cool. Don't think I'm going to use anything much out of the chassis except for a couple toggle switches if I can. They're nice and old, and I'll tear them out of there, test them if they work, clean them up with some contact cleaner, and reuse them in the finished radio, or the finished project, I should say. So here we got the parts cut in half, and set them to the side. We got plenty of other things to do. Moving back to the aquarium, taped the face of it off and sanded up the rest of it. Used a 1000 grit. You gotta sand it up a little bit at least, because you want the paint to stick. You don't want it to flake off easy. So we've got it sanded up. Something to think about also is when you're painting something clear like this, whatever color you put on first is the color you're going to see when you're looking inside. So I hit it with black primer first before I went to my color. I just picked one of the coppers that I have. I've got probably 3 or 4 different spray cans, different colors of copper, if you would say. It's really a preference. And you can see that I put brass color paint on the top and the bottom pieces. And then I cut a piece of 2-inch PVC in half. I'm going to mount it on the left side because that's where my bubblers are going to go. So I cut it in half, shaped it up a little bit just with a Dremel tool again, and stuck it on there, eyeballed it, make sure it looks good. So I got that cut and ready to get painted and get it mounted up to the aquarium. So I need to enclose the top and the bottom of that piece of PVC. And what I used was I had a piece of 1/8 inch or 3/16 inch thick acrylic, and shaved off a piece. Got as close as possible, and just used some epoxy, glued it to the top, glued it to the bottom, and then I'll just work with it with my Dremel and with the sanding disc, and just work it until it's smooth and it looks like it's just one solid piece there. So to mount the PVC to the side, I'm going to use this bolt and the plastic wing nut on the end. Now I have 2 acorn nuts there. I made those with the smooth cast from a mold that I made. I'm going to cover the head of this bolt with that, because just looking at the project, for me personally, I think the acorn nut looks a lot cooler than a Phillips head screw. So, and you making them out of smooth cast, they're so easy to use. You can just grind out the middle of them, and they'll glue right over top of the head of the bolt, and they look really, really nice. Here's the piece of PVC. It's painted up silver. I drilled a hole in the bottom and put a little gold grommet under there. It's going to be the place where the wiring goes in for the lights and the bubblers, and the plastic tubing for the aerators is going to go up through there also. So now I just got to drill a few holes in the side where I'm going to mount the bubblers themselves, and get her mounted up to the side of the aquarium and see how she looks. All right, she mounts up real nice on the side. Everything looks lined up, so I'm happy with it. Next thing to do is to age the paint a little bit, put some life into it, and start working on making the bubblers themselves. All right, got some aging done on the aquarium itself. There are so many different ways of distressing things and aging them and giving things antique look, rust. It's just crazy, all the stuff that's out there, and it's so awesome to watch the videos of people and the different ideas. I think mine's probably the simplest way of doing it. It might not be as highly detailed, but I'm happy with the way it looks. It comes out the way I want it to, so it's what I stick with. And basically, it's you paint whatever color you want for your base, and I just use a latex indoor paint and dab it on with a paper towel or a cloth and wipe it off until I get the effect I'm looking for. And it's worked for me so far, and I really enjoy it. So I'm going to finish this up, a couple more little pieces, and then move on to the next. Here's a simple 3-way aquarium valve that I picked up off of Amazon. I plan on having 3 bubblers, and I want to be able to adjust the airflow to each one. So got that, and first thing we got to do is we got to beat it up a little bit. So hit it with the Dremel, shoot some brass spray paint on it, I'll antique it, and then try to figure out a way to mount this to my piece of equipment and keep the project moving. I put this picture on here just so you can see. These are the 3 bubblers, 2 shorter ones, 1 taller one, attached to that piece of PVC. I wanted to put this on first so you can kind of see where I'm going with the next few pictures when I show you how I put it together a little bit. All right, so here's what we have to start with. On the left are my go-tos, the lids on bubblegum machine toys. I don't know why I have such a love for them, but I do, and I use them on so many different things. They just seem to bring things to life, help add another dimension to certain projects I'm working on. But I love them. I'm going to keep using them. So on the right, got 1.5 inch PVC caps. They fit over top of the acrylic tubing that I picked up. I'll talk a little bit more about the tubing in a little bit, but first thing we're going to do is we're going to glue the lids to the bottom of the PVC caps. And make sure you sand the PVC up good. You want to give the glue something to bite into. So just 2-part epoxy glued onto the bottom, smoothed out the best I could with my finger, and then I'm going to hit it with a little color and sand it to make it look like it's one solid piece. Painted them up with a brass color. I did put some dings and dents in them with the Dremel tool and my sanding head. I'm going to be using 3/8 inch copper tubing to secure them to the other piece of PVC that I have. It was kind of trial and error, cutting them to length, bent them a little bit, and just keep chopping away at them until I got them where they sat nicely on the piece. They weren't touching each other or banging against each other. And using the 3/8 because I'm going to need to be able to run the aquarium tubing through one side and wiring for lights on the other side. One thing to always remember when you're building anything with water is make sure you have a way to fill the project with water once you get it all together. I have done that before, built bubblers, glued the top right down on it, put everything together, realized I had no way of introducing water to the system and had to tear things apart. So for me, I just drilled a hole in the back that I can stick a piece of tubing into. Need to make sure it's easily accessible also because water will evaporate. You will have to refill it. So you got to keep that in mind when you're putting these together. So I glued the copper into place. I'm not going to worry about the epoxy that you can see because when I age it, it's going to blend in, give it just look like it's part of it, maybe a weld or something. So not worried about that. Going to put a couple little embellishments on, give it some rivets. I use a couple different things for rivets. On these at the bottom, the larger ones, those are the head of attack. Just snip the pin off and glue them into place. And the smaller silver ones on top are like a half bead you pick up at the craft store. They come in a kit with 1,000 of them in all different sizes, so they work out nice. The tack heads are a little closer, a little thinner. The half beads stand out a little bit more, but I like them both. Use them up. Again, give it some dimension. And we age these and ready to move on to the next part of it. This is what I'll be using for the smaller bubbler in the middle. It's 3/4 inch PVC caps that I've got one here painted up already. And instead of using a store-bought aerator for like I'm using in the other two, I'm going to give something a try. I never attempted this before, but I got some 1/4 inch copper fittings, an elbow and a reducer, and a piece of what you call capillary tubing, which is bored out in the middle. And my goal, and I'm hoping that the pump has enough pressure to force the air through it. Capillary tubing can be restrictive, so I'm not quite sure, but we're going to find out. And obviously it did work, or I wouldn't be putting it into this video right now. I'll be doing the same thing to the smaller caps as I did the larger ones. Won't be using the lids from the gumball machine containers because these are smaller, but I found these aluminum caps. I just had a pile of them, must have picked them up at a yard sale or something somewhere. They look nice, they fit on there good, so I put them on. A bead of epoxy around there to kind of blend it together. Some of the half beads to give me a rivet. And we'll paint these up and sand them, make sure they look like one solid piece. Give them some age and move on and get the tubing put into place. And hopefully we'll have some nice looking bubblers here once we're done. Here's what the bubbling apparatus looks like once I've got it all put together. For any kind of reference, the coil, that piece of capillary tubing, I wrapped it around an X-Acto knife handle, so you can kind of tell the diameter of it. I got everything glued together with epoxy. I test fitted it, dry fitted it into the bottom of the 3/4 inch PVC. Everything seems to fit good. There's clearances. So now just gonna glue it all into place and hope she works for me. Moving on, it's time to put the lights in the 3 of the bubblers. Run the wire through the copper tubing, the 3/8 and the 1/4 inch. Give them a little bit of glue to hold them into place. These are just 12 volt DC lights. You can pick up like 100 pack of them for $10 on Amazon. Grateful for that everything's become more inexpensive and easier for me to acquire. So grateful for that. So we're going to get the bulbs mounted in each of the 3 of them and get the bubblers mounted in the bottom of the 3 caps there. And run. This one has, well, they all have the vinyl tubing running to them, mounted in the bottom, and a whole bunch of silicone schmutzed in around that opening, because there's nothing more disheartening than coming into the lab, seeing a nice pile of water laying on the bottom of the project and on the floor, and just completely ruining everything, and you have to start over. So always err on the side of caution, and lots of silicone in there. Got everything mounted to the back plate. You can see where I've run the wiring, pulled the tubing through. Again, lots of silicone, lots of glue. You can see the tubing and the wiring come out the bottom. This will be where it goes into the base, and everything gets hooked up, and all the magic begins. So I apologize if I glossed over anything here with the tubes. I mean, they're just acrylic tubes I found on Amazon, just cut to whatever length I wanted, and just eyeballed it till I was happy with it. So just make sure lots of silicone on the bottom, especially on that base, because that's where all the water pressure is going to be, and path of least resistance, that's where it's going to want to come out. So just make sure that you got everything sealed up nice and tight, and we are pretty much done with this side of the project, with the water side. All right, everyone, this will be the end of part 1. I really do appreciate you watching, and hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you stick around for part 2, where you get to watch the rest of the build and then get to see the machine in action. So if you did enjoy it, please hit like, please subscribe, and please comment. Again, we appreciate it so very, very much. We'll see you soon.